Before this video starts, I would like to thank you all for 215 subscribers. When I was out of the way, on with the video. When someone thinks about the rights of the people under the USSR, they will probably think that the people under the government had no rights to speak of. But what if I told you that that is not true? That in fact, women had better rights under the Soviet Union than most nations in the world at that time. For this video, we will be mostly looking into the Stalin era of the Soviet Union. Now to start with, let's look at the rights women had in the USSR by law. For this, we will look in the Constitution of the Soviet Union, mainly the second version of the Soviet Constitution. In the 1936 version of it, it states in Chapter 10, Fundamental Rights and Duties of Citizens, Article 122, quote, "Women in the USSR are accorded equal rights with men in all spheres of economic, state, cultural, social, and political life. The possibility of exercising these rights is ensured to women by granting them an equal right with men to work, payment of work, rest, leisure, social insurance, and education, and by state protection of the interest of mother and child, pre-maternity and maternity leave with full pay, and the provision of a wide network of maternity homes, nurseries, and kindergartens." End quote. It also reads in Chapter 11, the Electoral System, Article 137, quote, "Women have the right to elect and be elected on equal terms with men." End quote. With this said, we can see that the Soviet Union already valued women as equals to men. And this holds true when you see what women did in the Soviet Union. 55% of women were employed as servants, and only 13 of them worked in industry while under the Russian Empire. But in the Soviet Union, 39% of women in 1936 worked in large-scale industry, and 20% worked as doctors and or teachers, with only 2% of women during that time employed as servants. You might be asking yourself, how did the Soviet Union do this? And the answer is simple. The Soviets created a ton of nurseries and kindergartens for mothers to leave their kid at while she was off to work. In 1937, about 1,800,000 kids were in kindergartens and nurseries. The average workday for women was around 6 to 7 hours. But this is not to say that women had everything in the USSR, as is with the case of abortion. In 1936, abortion was made prohibited for numerous reasons. One of them was to boost the population. But there were exceptions to the rule of abortion, like if it threatened the life of the mother or could give the new child a disease. Women in the USSR were also encouraged to get good education. 43% of the population of the Soviet people in university and colleges were women. And women had a part in politics. There were 189 women in the Supreme Soviet of the Soviet Union, and another 848 women in the Supreme Soviet of the Union Republics. In conclusion, the notion that women under the USSR had no rights is simply false. We can clearly see that the life of women under the Soviet government was greater than in other nations in that time and under the Tsar. They had more options in life, work, education, etc.